What is up, guys? It is Coasters and Things here today, and today's video is a collaboration video with my friend Nick from Beyond the Thrills. We are going to be presenting each of our top 10 wooden roller coasters as of March 2020. In case you don't already know, my name is Jason, and I'll be going first, then Nick will follow. Let's kick things off with Kentucky Rumbler at Beach Bend in the number 10 spot. Beach Bend is actually a park and a raceway. This real small park in the middle of nowhere has this GCI wooden coaster. This is an underrated gem in the GCI family. It has really good pacing, pretty good laterals, and it's a decently long ride. It only operates with one train, and it doesn't need a second train because this park doesn't get big enough crowds to fill even one train. I rode this 3 times, twice in the front and once in the back. If it wasn't for this coaster, I would not have any desire to visit Beach Bend last year. Number 9 is Rampage at Alabama Adventure. I had a tough time deciding between this and Kentucky Rumbler, but I gave it to this because the laterals are even better. After Alabama Adventure closed in 2011, this CCI sat dormant for 4 years. Then the Coach family bought the park in 2014, and Rampage reopened in 2015. This coaster is at the very back of the park and is built into the hillside. That means that you drop down the side of the hill and then go super high up off the ground at times. You really feel a great sense of speed on this coaster. Number 8 is Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. Let me tell you guys, this coaster is the pure definition of intensity on a wooden coaster. It's so incredibly rough, which adds to it. The roughest wooden coaster I've ever ridden. The tunnels are insane as you fly through them at 60 plus miles per hour in pitch black darkness, hitting a 90-degree bank turn on the way out there. The inversion actually is the smoothest part, and it feels very natural when you go through it. It's hard to believe that this coaster at one point didn't have an inversion. I still sometimes refer to this coaster simply as Hades, which is what it used to be called before the inversion was added in. Number 7, you're either going to love me or hate me for this. It is the Beast at Kings Island. Now, I want to say something real quick. I only got to ride this coaster once, and it was at night in the back row. I loved the night ride on this coaster. The helix at the end is so forceful. I don't mind that a lot of the ride is just wide turns and straight tracks. When I go back to KI in a month, I'm going to see if I can ride it in the daytime. The only thing I have against this coaster is this coaster consistently has the longest wait in the park because it's the GP's favorite coaster at Kings Island. Number 6 is Thunderhead at Dollywood. This GCI is at my home park and was my first big coaster I rode almost 10 years ago. Now, did I enjoy it the first time? No, definitely not. I was not ready for it the first time I rode it, and the roughness made me not like big roller coasters, and I went 4 years before I started riding big coasters again. When I became an enthusiast, I started riding this coaster a lot more, and I've developed a tolerance to the roughness. Plus, with the recent retracking, it's running better than ever. It has a total of 22 turns and 32 crossovers. And fun fact, this coaster actually uses a train left over from Ozark Wildcat after that coaster was torn down. Making the top 5 is Balderdash at Lake Compounce. When I did this video last year, this coaster was in my top 3. This coaster uses the terrain incredibly well and retains its speed throughout the ride. You just zip through the woods at 60 miles per hour, and you actually go from Bristol to Southington on it. It's my favorite CCI by far, and I can see why it's won the Golden Ticket Award for Best Wooden Coaster several times. When I was younger, I would watch the roller coaster POV videos on YouTube by various users such as Coaster Force and Theme Park Review. Balderdash is one of those videos that I would watch over and over again. I would always think to myself, That looks awesome, and I would love to ride that. 2 years ago, I finally got to ride it, and it was absolutely amazing. Number 4 is Goliath at Six Flags Great America. This is an RMC topper track woody, and it also holds the record for steepest drop on a wooden roller coaster at 85 degrees. Now that's on a full circuit wooden coaster. I'm not counting Switchback's spike in this case. That is insanely steep at 85 degrees. The dive, loop, and zero-G stall make for 2 great inversions, and the hang time on them is amazing. This occupies the land at Great America where their former stand-up coaster used to be, and it reuses its station too. It's safe to say this is a much better ride than Iron Wolf was. Goliath is an overall awesome ride. Number 3 is Mystic Timbers at Kings Island, my favorite GCI. This might seem high to a lot of enthusiasts. Mystic, you either think it's overrated or you love it. I love it. It's so smooth, great ejector airtime, and it has an out and back layout, which is uncommon for a GCI. Most GCIs have twister layouts. I slightly prefer the out and back design to the twister design. That's why I like this more than Thunderhead, even though Thunderhead's more aggressive. You go through the woods of Rivertown, and then at the end comes the shed. I think the shed was overhyped when this coaster was being built. I got bats at the end, as opposed to snakes or trees. Overall, though, Mystic Timbers is very enjoyable. Now we're at the top 2, and you guys probably know what they are. They're 2 of the greatest roller coasters ever built, wood or steel. At number 2 is the Voyage at Holiday World. I love this coaster so much. It has insane ejector airtime, and a fun fact, it has more airtime on it than any other wooden roller coaster in the world. This ride is so much taller in person than it appears on videos. It is also incredibly long. This is one of the longest coasters in the country. The night ride is legendary. My favorite night ride I've ever experienced, and I'll be riding this coaster again at Hollywood Nights for the first time this year, too. Now we're at my number 1 woody. Most of you already know what it is. It's Lightning Rod at Dollywood. This is my number 2 roller coaster I've ever ridden, and it is absolutely bonkers. The quad down is undeniably the single best airtime sequence on a coaster ever. The wave turn that you go over is huge, and you get sustained ejector for almost 5 seconds, which is an eternity for airtime. This is what I always head to first every time I go to Dollywood, and it is always worth it, whether it has a short line or a long line. Lightning Rod at Dollywood takes the cake for my number 1 wooden coaster. Now, take it away, Nick.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Beyond the Thrills. So that was Jason's list, but now it's time for me to reveal mine. And if I'm being completely honest, this was a little difficult for me to put together. I already knew my top 5, but as for number 10 to number 7, I wasn't entirely sure. So I had to look back on my ride experiences and go, what was more intense? What had better airtime? What ride did I just have a better time on? But now it is time for the top 10. Coming in at the number 10 spot is Wildcat at Hershey Park. This GCI coaster is either loved by enthusiasts or absolutely hated by enthusiasts. I'd say more hated. Most enthusiasts have said for a while that they want this thing to get RMC'd, but as for me, I'd say I'm in the middle. The last time I've been on this was 2018 when I went to Hershey Park Christmas Candy Lane. I went for 2 days. My first night, I rode it towards the back, a night ride. It was really cold, but it was actually a lot smoother than I remembered. We also rode it the next day, and I got a few front row rides, which were awesome. But when I was younger and my visits before Candy Lane, I went on Wildcat, and I didn't like it that much. I thought it was really rough. Maybe it just runs better in colder weather. I'm not entirely sure, but I definitely had a blast on it at Christmas Candy Lane in 2018. So as of right now, I'm basing this off of my experiences during that time at Hershey Park. It was great. Okay, moving on. At the number 9 spot, we have the Great White at Morey's Piers in Wildwood, New Jersey. Morey's Piers is actually the farthest New Jersey boardwalk park from me. I'm a lot closer to Playland's Castaway Cove. So in terms of New Jersey boardwalk coasters, I've ridden Gale Force many more times than Great White. But I've been on Great White a couple times, and it's a lot of fun. And one awesome thing about this ride is the majority of the layout is actually on the beach. There is a fence that surrounds the structure, but you can get really close to it, which is great if you want to film off-ride footage. It does have some good airtime, and one more thing I'd like to add is at the beginning of the ride, it goes under the boardwalk, which is really unique. You're not under there for very long. You're only under there for a few seconds, and then you go up the lift hill, but it's just really unique and awesome. So I'd say this is still a fantastic CCI, and it's a must ride when you go to Morey's Piers. So up next at number 8 is Rebel Yell, now known as Racer 75, at King's Dominion. I only rode this once actually, but man, it actually has some good ejector airtime. It only has the regular PTC restraints. It does not have buzz bars. But yeah, I rode the blue side. I did not ride the red side. I'm not sure which is the better one, so I didn't get both credits. But from what I can remember, the blue side was great. It had a lot of ejector airtime. Really smooth actually as well. I know it's gotten retracked through the years, but it's a lot of fun. And it's much better than Grizzly. It's definitely my favorite wooden coaster at King's Dominion, that's for sure. At the number 7 spot is Roar at Six Flags America. This ride is actually underrated in my opinion. It's one of the only GCIs to run with PTC trains. The PTC trains don't have buzz bars or anything. It has the regular PTC restraints, but you still get some airtime on this. There's a couple little ejector and floater moments. It's really intense. It gives great views of Superman Ride of Steel, and if you know me personally, you know I really like Superman Ride of Steel. And from what I can remember, this was back in August 2018. I had a lot of fun on Roar. So that is why it is at number 7. Okay, we've made it to the number 6 spot. This coaster is actually only a couple footsteps away from Roar. It is at the same park. It is Wild One at Six Flags America. This is a Din Corporation wooden coaster, and it is actually one of the oldest wooden coasters still in operation. In 2017, it celebrated its 100th year. It's crazy to think about. I actually rode it in 2018, its 101 season. And it was really good. Really smooth. And like I said with Rebel Yell, I'm sure it's gotten plenty of retracks through the years. But still, to run the way it did at 101 years old, it was great. It had some good ejector airtime. The helix was actually very intense towards the end of the ride. I liked that a lot. So that is why it is at number 6. All right, so we made it to the top 5. Number 5 for me is Twister at Knoebels. This is by far one of the most unique wooden roller coasters in operation. It is actually a built-in house coaster by Knoebels themselves. It runs with PTC trains, but it is built in-house. It stands at a staggering 101 feet tall, but the drop is 89 feet. It runs at 51 miles per hour, and you definitely can feel the speed. But if there's anything that makes this ride special, it is the laterals. This thing is a lateral machine. It does have a couple airtime moments. I'd say it's more floater than ejector. But if this ride focuses on anything, it's laterals. Another thing I'd like to add real quick before we move on which is really unique, it has 2 lift hills. So when you go to Knoebels, do not pass up Twister. Number 4 is Lightning Racer at Hershey Park. My personal favorite GCI and the third and final GCI on this list. Even if this roller coaster didn't have 2 sides and the trains didn't race each other, I would probably still really like this ride. Wow, it is great. One thing I noticed though, when you get to the finish line on the brake run, the Thunder train seems to win more than the Lightning train. I'm not sure why, but just something I noticed. I've actually heard that from other enthusiasts also, so I'm not the only one that noticed this. But wow, Lightning Racer has some really good ejector moments. It's very intense, and when you're driving up to Hershey Park, it is one of the first coasters you see, so it definitely elevates the hype. At the number 3 spot, we have the Comet at the Great Escape in Lake George, New York. This roller coaster is relocated from Crystal Beach, a defunct amusement park which was in Canada. It was in operation from the late 1800s and then it closed in 1989. But since then, it has been at Six Flags Great Escape. And this coaster is very close to 100 feet tall and right next to the Adirondack Mountains, which gives great views. But the drop itself is 87 feet tall. It reaches a speed of 55 miles per hour. And man, this is a fantastic, classic roller coaster by Philadelphia Toboggan Company. It does have the regular PTC restraints, but it has a loose seatbelt and still gives a crazy amount of ejector airtime. It has 2 turnarounds on each side, the left side and the right side, and both of those turnarounds actually give great laterals. I rode this coaster for the first time at the end of July of 2019, this past summer, and it was definitely one of the highlights of my trip. At the number 2 spot, we have the Phoenix at Knoebels. This roller coaster originally operated as the Rocket at Playland Park in San Antonio, which was in operation until 1980. But then in 1985, it was relocated to Knoebels, and it has operated there ever since. This ride is just legendary. It's won several Golden Ticket Awards as the best wooden roller coaster. To be honest, I'd say that's a bit of a stretch. I can name 3 or 4 wooden coasters that are potentially better, but still, I'm not taking anything away from this ride. It's great. But if there's one thing that makes this ride as good as it really is, it's the restraints. The buzz bars are what does Phoenix justice. Without it, Phoenix would probably just be another decent PTC family wooden coaster. It only goes 45 miles per hour, but since it has the buzz bars, it has crazy ejector and floater airtime. Phoenix's finale is some of the strongest airtime you will ever experience on a coaster. It has no seatbelt, just buzz bars. If you haven't ridden it, just think about that for a second. It's scary. So if you haven't been to Knoebels yet, definitely plan a trip out there if you can, because Twister and Phoenix are both awesome wooden coasters, and I wouldn't pass them up if you're in the Bloomsbury, Pennsylvania area. And we finally made it to the number 1 spot. This should be no surprise to most of you that already know me. It is El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. Wow, this ride is just incredible. I just can't see how this coaster will ever get old. It is an Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster, which automatically means it is smoother than most woodies. But I wouldn't go as far as saying every seat is as smooth as the other, though. If you look closely, you can see that each car itself has 3 rows. So if you sit in the middle, that is a non-wheel seat. So you will not feel the shakiness or the roughness much at all if you sit there. But apart from that, This ride is absolutely insane. It is 70 miles per hour, has a 76-degree drop, and probably the craziest ejector airtime I've ever experienced so far. Maybe ever. It may be the strongest airtime out there. I don't know. I have to get out there and ride some more coasters, I guess. But as of right now, it's the best ejector I think I've experienced.
We hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more collaboration videos, just comment down below. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And this is Coasters and Things and Beyond the Thrills signing out.